What's up everybody, Tech Chucker here, and today I've got a review for you of the SH Figuarts Batman the Dark Knight Batman figure. Now this is a really cool figure. There are a lot of issues, maybe not a lot of issues, there's a couple of issues that really bug me, but aside from that, I got this on a big discount. It's a really cool figure, so let's go ahead and crack this thing open and take a closer look. Alright, so this Figuarts figure has really nice articulation, no major issues. His head can look up quite a bit. There is a little bit of gappage, but you can deal with that. He can get his chin all the way down into his chest, which is awesome. There is really good side to side, no issues there. He's also got excellent tilt. I don't think I've ever had a figure with this good of neck tilt. It's almost unnatural, but it's really nice. There's also a ball peg in the neck joint, so you can get a lot of really good range of motion. Yes, you're going to have to deal with some gappage, but you can deal with that with angles and whatnot. In the shoulders, there's a lot going on in the shoulders, but he can get his arm all the way out and the shoulder pads pop off. That's my biggest complaint with this figure. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But he has full rotation of that shoulder. No issues with that. There is, let's see if I can, let me show you what this shoulder pad joint looks like. Basically, it's a hinge with a ball peg, and you know, it's not a, well, I'll say it's kind of a crappy design. I don't really care for it. I do like that they're trying to make this shoulder pad float with the shoulder so that it can move out of the way. The problem is it's not deep enough, I think. But he does have a butterfly joint. You can't really do much with it going forward just because of the sculpt. Backwards isn't too bad. It could be a little bit better. But there is an upper bicep swivel that works pretty good. No issues there. He's got double jointed elbows, and these work really, really well. And they actually look decent. I mean, it is a little thin for a human arm, but still it works pretty well. In the wrists, he's got a ball hinge, and it's okay depending on the hand. There is either a lot or not very much range of motion there. In the torso, there's quite a bit going on. He can crunch forward about this much. Not too bad, especially for a Batman figure. I'm pretty pleased with that. And then he can crunch back a decent enough amount. I'm pleased with that. He's got good side-to-side crunch with both of those joints, giving him a pretty good amount of motion. He can side-to-side rotate, which is nice at the top, and then at the waist he also can swivel, which is pretty cool. So you got a lot of range of motion there in the torso. In the hips, he's got pretty good range of motion. You can't do a full split, but it's pretty darn close. He can kick forward. Let's get this arm out of the way. He can kick forward quite a bit. I'm actually really pleased with how far forward he can kick. He's got it over 90 degrees, which is pretty sweet. I'm really pleased with that. Mine kind of sticks a little bit, but then going back, he's actually got a decent amount of motion, range of motion going back, which is pretty cool too. There is an upper thigh swivel that works decent enough. I'm pleased with that for the most part. And then in the knees, he's got double jointed knees. Those work really, really good. No issues there. And I would say the knees actually look pretty decent. There is no upper shin cut, but that's okay. The ankles are pretty cruddy. Backwards and forward is really, really limited. There's not much there. There is a small ankle rocker. Doesn't do a whole lot, but you know, it kind of gets the job done. There is also a toe hinge. I'm not a huge fan of toe hinges. This one, it's okay, but it looks a little funky. Wish it was a little tighter. The cape has a flat plastic instead of wire, and it gives you some nice ability. You know, you can get some decent shape, but because of the way that it's mounted to the actual figure, it's not going to hold up in the air all that much. It just gives you a little bit of character to that look. You know, which I'm happy with. It looks pretty darn good, and you can do some pretty cool stuff with that cape. So the sculpt is where it's at with this figure. I think Bandai, or the Figuarts folks, did a really nice job. It's a pretty good likeness of Christian Bale. Not too bad, pretty clean, I would say. I'm pleased with that head sculpt. no real issues. The rest of the figure is where there's just a ton of sculpt and some really nice paint detail. It's fairly subtle for the paint, but the sculpt work, there's so much going on here. I love this utility belt, looks great. There's so many neat little details throughout the figure and different textures of the plastics that I just really, really love. These little arm pieces, they're very sharp. It's kind of a rigid, hard plastic. Looks great. In his back, they did a really nice job. I just love the way that this looks. All of the different textures is so cool. I couldn't be more pleased with the way that they sculpted this figure. It looks really, really good. Very pleased with it. Even the cape is really, really nice. There's actually two sets of not wires, but plastic pieces. So my biggest issue is really the shoulder pads on this figure. Beyond that, I mean, the cape is really nice. It's kind of a real thin fabric, so you can kind of see the light coming through, but not, yeah, see, there's those stupid shoulder pads. It really takes away from the articulation, and it takes away from the figure. The pads look really nice, and they look great on him, but they just didn't execute that very well. But the rest of the figure is really, really well executed. And we should take a look and see just how tall Batman is. And to the tip of his ears, he's getting close to about 6.5 inches. At the angle you're seeing, it looks like he is, but it's just a hair shorter. But I'm fairly happy with how big he is. We'll go ahead and put Deadpool in next to him so that we can just kind of get that comparison. Deadpool's about 6 3/4 inches. So you can see Batman's slightly smaller in build, but you know, I don't really mind that. I don't mind the size difference, because I'm probably not going to put this with Deadpool and my Marvel Legends anyway. So I don't really care about that size difference. We get a decent amount of accessories with this figure, and the first one that I want to show you is the head sculpt. And this one's a little confusing. It looks nice, it's painted well, it's sculpted well, but the look of the mouth just sort of open. I don't know, I would have rather had like a grimace or like a yelling face or something like that. It's just kind of a weird look. I do like the way that they executed this with the double ball peg and the ball peg actually being in the heads. So it would just pop this off, and it's a really easy pop. You don't have to force it off very hard, and you don't have to force it on very hard, which is really nice. You don't really feel like you're gonna break it or anything. But you can see there, it just, you know, it doesn't really have a very commanding look, you know, just, I don't know, it just doesn't look all that great. With the first head looks a lot better. I would have preferred, you know, that yelling look or something a little more, I don't know. We get 6 different sets of hands, and here's the first set. Basically an open hand. He's about to grip, or he's sort of gripping something. And then we get trigger finger hands. These are pretty nice. I do wish that the fingers were a little more pliable, maybe just a little softer, but they do work pretty good. And then we get these hands, which are mostly somewhat clenched, so he can hold his batarangs or hold other devices, I guess. Nice hands, very well sculpted, no real paint on them. And then these hands, which are definitely pinching hands, which are definitely for throwing the batarangs to hold those batarangs, and they're very nice. The whole thing with the hands is I really feel as though they're all sculpted a little bit small. I don't know, it just doesn't quite look exactly right. Here's another set of hands, not quite as closed, not quite as open. They're nice enough. And then we get the fist hands that you can see, I don't know, they look a little tiny. I don't know, I feel like they should be a little bit bigger. But the ball peg is what really concerns me. These are really, really tiny ball pegs. And you kind of have, let's see if I can get this thing to actually get on there. There we go. So each hand, you know, some of them are easier to get on than others. Once you do get it on, it's not coming off unless you specifically pull it off. But they look nice. I like them. I just maybe wish they were slightly bigger. And what would be a Batman figure without some batarangs? We get these 2 gold batarangs, very nicely sculpted. They look good, painted fairly well. You know, I can't complain at all because these look really, really good. They're just really easy to lose, which has nothing to do with the manufacturer. But these do fit in a couple of sets of hands, so he can hold them in different ways if you'd like, which is pretty darn cool. Okay, and we get Batman's grappling hook gun, which is really, really well sculpted, very nicely painted. I really like this. I think they did a great job with this. It just looks really nice. The hooks on the ends look nice. They don't come out, but they do look very, very nice. I like the gold. It's sculpted really, really well. And see if I can find his... There we go. It is a little bit more difficult to get in just because those fingers are not very soft at all. So just be careful that you don't pry it too much and wind up breaking it, but you should be able to pop that in, and then the finger will definitely fit in the trigger guard, which is nice. So it actually looks relatively accurate and realistic. So this weapon I'm very, very pleased with. And last but not least is this, I don't know, weapon thing. I forget what it is, if it's like an electric pulse blaster or whatever the heck it is. Someone let me know in the comments, but this is really well sculpted. Just look at all those cool little details. And it does fit in his hand. This isn't quite the right trigger finger though for it, but this is really, really cool weapon. I really am glad that we got that. You know, I couldn't be any more pleased with the weapons, accessories, and whatnot, aside from if that head was, you know, that second head had a better face sculpt. But the other thing that's pretty cool about this is the weapon storage for his grappling gun. It is a little bit cumbersome just to try and get this in the right position. We'll see if I can actually get this in one take. Lining it up, it seems to always slip and fall, and we'll see if I can. Yeah, and I don't know that it's really the execution of this as opposed to just me always getting it wrong, but I always struggle to get this thing lined up. And again, I'm struggling to get it. There we go. And that just basically the trigger guard just pops right into that rounded area. But this is really cool. I like it. You can position it in different ways so that you know, it stays out of the way when you're articulating the figure, which is really, really cool. I like that a lot. So overall, there's a lot of really, really good positive aspects to this figure. There's just a few things like the shoulder pads here that they constantly fall off. It just detracts from the figure and it bugs me. And I can't imagine why they would let this pass and go to production like that when it's something that they could have just made the socket a little bit deeper and maybe held it so that it would hold in a little bit more. But in the end, it's Batman. I love Batman. I always got to have every Batman I can find. So I recommend you grab this if you can, but don't pay full price. Don't pay 50 or 60 bucks for it. I don't know that it's worth that, but it's up to you. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this figure? Do you hate it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll see you later.